Ladies and gentlemen, I asked over 4,500 people on Twitter what would ruin Stranger Things 5 for them, and over 100 people responded. Now, obviously, I'm not going to respond to all 100 comments, but I'm going to take the most popular ones from this tweet and give you my honest and candid thoughts of what I think about these people's opinions. And there's some controversy opinions, so it's going to be an entertaining video, and I'm excited to get into it. Before I do, be sure to drop a like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and check out my Discord where we talk Stranger Things pretty much every single day. And without further ado, let's get right into it. So to get everyone riled up right away, I'm going to take the most controversial opinion on this tweet and talk about it right out the gate, whether you like it or not. The first one is from Good Graces, and they say, giving Will Byers a random love interest at the end of the show for a happy ending when it's obvious he deserves to get with Mike for a happy ending. Now, obviously, this is basically just saying this person believes Will Byers and Mike Wheeler should end up lovers instead of Mike Wheeler and 11 and Will Byers getting with someone random at the end of the show. And here is my honest thoughts, and I'm just going to be completely honest. I don't care what anybody thinks because it's just a TV show, and I don't really care that much about teenager relationships, but here we go. I do not think Mike Wheeler and Will Byers will get together in Stranger Things 5, and I also think that they shouldn't get together in season 5 because when I watched the show originally, I never thought that this was a possibility until I got on to like Stranger Things Twitter and Stranger Things. I started making content on it and I heard different opinions. But when I was just a fan of the show outside of being a content creator, I never thought that this was even a possibility. I never saw it, whether it's just because I never thought about it or whatever. It just never popped up into my mind. When I originally watched the show, I saw 11 and Mike fall in love, at the end of season 1, episode 1, and they're still together after some hardships and everything all the way in season 4, and I just assumed they're gonna be together in season 5. But obviously, a lot of people don't think that. But just because I think that Mike and 11 should end up together and that they've been together this entire time and they're meant for each other, blah, 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 like they're in love, doesn't mean that I don't get where you're coming from when you say Will should get with Mike. Like, clearly Will's in love with Mike. I'm not saying that at all. Like, I'm not saying he's not in love with Mike. Clearly he is. I just don't think Mike feels the same way. And you could argue differently and point out all these different clues in the show, which I know you will in my comment section, which is totally fine. Me personally, I do not care because I just think that Mike and 11 are going to end up together. And Will is, if we're being honest, Will Byers is probably going to die or he's going to find a random love interest like you said you didn't want to happen. That's what's going to happen though, in my opinion. And it's not really that much of an opinion in my opinion, but it's an opinion regardless. I think Will could die for sure. And this won't even be a topic of discussion at the end of season 5. Everyone will just be clinically depressed. Regardless, honestly, of the outcome of the show, they'll be depressed because the show ends. But I think that Will has a good chance of dying in season 5 because he could get turned into a villain once again and with Vecna and then sacrifice himself. But I also think it's a good possibility that he will just find someone random and end up living happily ever after. Those are the two possibilities I see for Will. I don't see any other possibilities, but hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we're both wrong. Who knows? Regardless, I'm excited to see how it ends up happening. Now, to be clear, that wasn't the only comment about, the relationships about, Mike and Will. So I'm not going to read any other ones. I already gave you my opinion, so we're not just going to re-say the same thing. So we're going to move on from that discussion and we're going to move on to the next comment, which is from Joseph, and he says the worst ending would be none of the main characters dying. I want someone notable to die in the show, and I tend to agree with Joseph, and I've talked about this in all of my videos pretty much, especially my death prediction video. I said that if no one dies that's been in the show since season 1, what was the point of the show? Because we're seeing the world end. We're seeing this world catastrophe that everyone's insanely afraid of, and they're preparing this, that, and the other. And we're seeing an alternate dimension demon, this, that. So if no one dies, and the only people who die are irrelevant characters, essentially, not saying Eddie and Billy are irrelevant, but if no main characters die, then in my opinion, there's gonna be something left to be desired at the end of the show. We're gonna finish the show, we're gonna end the show watching it, and we're gonna think, wow, I want more. I think someone should. I want more heartbreak. I think someone should. This is the end of a. This is the end of a show and a storyline that's been so tense and scary, and emotional. There needs to be that one for sure heartbreak that we're all just devastated, in my opinion. And I agree with Joseph when he says that someone notable needs to die, because I do think that needs to happen for the show to end up being the perfect show. The next one is from Tamar, and in this sentence, they're basically just saying that they don't want Steve and Nancy to end up together. They don't belong with each other, and that they don't want Steve or Jonathan to die just to finish off that love triangle. And I agree to an extent. I think that in season 4, episode 7, it didn't really make sense that they hinted at Steve and Nancy so much. It didn't really make sense. Or might have been season 4, episode 6. Regardless, Steve was like tending to Nancy. Nancy was tending to Steve. They were locking eyes, talking, flirting. I mean, the whole 9 yards. It couldn't have been more obvious. So in my mind, just watching the show, not being, I'm not on Stranger Things Twitter arguing about ships all day, so I'm not really into it that much. I was just thinking like, okay, like Steve and Nancy are getting back together. That's just what I thought. And then you fast forward 2 episodes later, in season 4, episode 9, and Steve and Nancy and Jonathan are talking it over, discussing their futures, and then they're holding hands, and it's like they moved on from the Steve thing, I guess. So yeah, I think Nancy and Jonathan are going to end up together, and I think it's not going to be a question in season 5. I don't think that love triangle is going to carry on that far into season 5. I think it's going to be pretty clear from the beginning that Nancy and Jonathan are together, and I think because of that, they will kill off Steve, or Steve is a kill-off possibility, and not because of a love triangle, though. That's what I was saying to an extent. I think they could kill off Steve simply because Steve is a kill-offable character, because we thought Steve was going to die the last 4 seasons. Who's to say he's not going to die in season 5? That's basically my point, and he would be that heartbreak character. He would be that character where we're like, God dang it, but it was necessary for the story, you know what I'm saying? So that's what I think is gonna happen with that. But yeah, I agree. I don't think Steve and Nancy belong with each other, and I don't understand why they hinted at it so much in season 4. It kind of annoyed me. It did annoy me. So I don't want it to happen either. This is an interesting one from Byler posting. They said, not fully exploring what happened to Will when he vanished or why he vanished to begin with. I waited almost 10 years for this arc. I want something good. I agree. Like, I feel like we know to an extent what happened, or like we all have our idea of why it happened, but we never really know, we have never really found out for sure why it happened. And diving into that story is only just gonna make it better for us rewatching the show. So I don't know why they wouldn't do that, and I agree. Like, only good can come out of diving deep into that story, in my opinion, is what I'm saying. So I agree with you. I think that needs to be fully explored even more than it already has been. 11_void says, if 11 has to sacrifice herself, I think there's a way that could end Vecna in the Upside Down without having to sacrifice herself. I agree to an extent. An extent has been a popular word in this video, but I'm gonna say it again anyways. I don't know. Like, I don't want 11 to die, obviously, but if she did die sacrificing herself, I wouldn't really be surprised whatsoever. And I do think death like that, like I said, heartbreaking death is necessary. But I don't want to see her dying because she's been so powerful and she went through so much, so killing her off in the end just seems like, God, that was stupid, sort of, but not really, because she went through all that and saved all her friends and everything, so it would make sense a little bit. I don't know, I'm kind of on the edge with it. Obviously, I don't want her to die, and I do think there's a way to defeat Vecna without her dying. Like, I think a lot of different people could sacrifice themselves to kill Vecna. I don't think it's just 11, so I guess it just depends on where the Duffers want the story to go. I'm Henry Creel says, having the worst time travel approach possible, like alternating the present by changing the past, or completely removing the present as a possible outcome, or preventing Henry in some sort of way that alters the continuity of events, which would discard all seasons before. I'm just gonna say this in response to this comment. I don't want anything to do with time travel at all. I don't want to see it be in play. I don't even want to see it being talked about, to be honest with you. I don't want to see anything with time travel, because I think time travel in the real world, like in our world, life, we don't know if time travel exists, and if it does, we don't really know anything about it. Even if people say they know stuff about it, they don't know anything about it because it's never been done, to our knowledge, right? And if it has been done, it's already been done. So it's even more confusing. So trying to explain that in a show in the final season, I feel like is a very risky task to attempt to do. Because if you don't explain it in a way where 13-year-olds can understand it and 55-year-olds can understand it, you know, you just screw the entire show, in my opinion. You cannot bring in a storyline like that in a show like this at the last part of the season. If you started out the show like that, no problem. But ending the show with time travel and potentially confusing the entire storyline to a point where it's hard for anybody to understand, I feel like that is a very risky route to go. I don't think they'll do that either, but I just don't want time travel to be involved in the show whatsoever. Key says, if they don't give a proper reason to why or how Will survived that week in the Upside Down, or if that reason is shitty. Like Steve, Robin, Nancy, and Eddie all almost died being there for how many hours? And 12-year-old Will survived there for like a week. I need answers, Duffers. I think this goes with that question where it was saying, I want them to dive into why Will got captured in the first place. I think that all that will get answered. There's too many questions surrounding that. I agree with both of those statements. I do think we need more answers just surrounding Will's character in general. Most of the questions going into season 5 surround Will's storyline, to be honest with you. Mouse says, it was all a dream. Ending would genuinely upset me, basically is what she said. I agree. If it was all just a dream, that would piss me off. But good thing it's not going to be that, because the Duffers already talked about, like, it's not going to be a D&D game and it's not just going to be a dream. So we're good on that end. So that's good to know. Brian says, Nancy being sidelined or dying, Mike and Will getting together, and Callie not even being mentioned. I agree to an extent. I don't care if Nancy dies, but her being sidelined would suck. Mike and Will getting together, I agree, doesn't make any sense to me. And then Callie not even being mentioned, I sort of agree, but I would understand if the Duffers didn't bring her up because it's kind of a sore subject in the Stranger Things community at this point. But I do think she should be mentioned, and I think she should return as well because, I don't know, I'm just a fan of people with powers, and she has powers. So bring her back, Duffers, please. Okay, this is a controversial one to an extent again. Wow, I need to figure out a different word. But Mimi says, giving new characters a lot of unimportant screen time that takes away from the characters we already know and love. I agree, honestly. Like, I know there's gonna be that new character, Derek, or whatever. I don't really care about Derek. Maybe I will by the end of the season. Maybe he'll die a heartbreaking death and me over here will get teary-eyed about some random kid who just showed up in season 5 dying. But as of right now, I do not care about his character, and I don't really want him stealing screen time from other characters that were in season 4 that need more screen time in season 5. You know, Mike, Jonathan, Will, all those characters need to have more screen time in season 5. So if a character like Derek is going to get a lot of screen time and they're not, I'm going to be pissed off, you know? So that should not happen, in my opinion, and I agree with Mimi on that one. Okay, here's a new one. Ayla says, Max not waking up would ruin it for me because she deserves to be happy for at least one season. That's kind of a good point. I mean, I would argue in season 3, she was happy for the most part until the final episode or final 2 episodes. But yeah, Max does deserve a happy ending. I don't think she'll die. I don't think they made her survive bone snapping, eyes being gouged out, heart stopping, literally dying. I don't think they brought her back to life for no reason, but I also don't know if they're just gonna bring her back and she's gonna be walking and happy again. Who knows? But if I had to guess, and I had to put my money on it, I would say Max is gonna be alive and happy by the end of season 5. And I have no idea how that's gonna be possible, but I do think it'll happen. Wow, I think this one is gonna be an unpopular opinion. Clay says, if Vecna does not end up being the villain and turns good, which I've made a theory on, that I think Vecna could potentially somehow turn good at the very end and sacrifice himself for 11 by getting killed by the Mind Flayer. And the Mind Flayer was controlling him that entire time, and it reveals this even deeper backstory to Vecna's character. I personally would like that, but Clay is saying he does not want that, and that would ruin the show for him. So that's pretty crazy. If that would ruin Stranger Things 5 for you, I think that's pretty crazy. But I understand where you're coming from for sure, because a lot of people don't like to follow a storyline that ends up like that. They just want it to be how it is, which is totally understandable. I'm over here looking for every twist and turn possible, so understandable. And yeah, I mean, I think Vecna ends up being the biggest villain anyway, so I don't think you have anything to worry about. Okay, another interesting comment here by Elmac. They say, if they keep changing storylines, like here's a flashback from Will in the Upside Down and then straight to the military, needs to have decent scenes. I think what they're saying is, they're saying they don't want it to be how it was in season 4 where they were going from Russia to here to there to there to there to there, to like switching scenes a lot. I think that's what they're saying, but even if they're not saying that, I'm gonna bring it up anyways. I don't want to see that either. I don't want to see them going from Russia to Hawkins to the Upside Down to whatever, to California, and it's not going to be like that, which is good. It's going to be all Hawkins. It's going to be a season 1 vibe. I'm more interested in that rather than the alternative, which is 4 different cutscenes every 10-15 minutes. So I don't know if you were saying that, but if you are, I agree with you. Oh, and here we go. The first time I've seen this one, Peanut Butter Pretzel says, no Eddie will ruin it. No Eddie ruining Stranger Things 5 is wild. You have set yourself some high standards there, because I don't think it's gonna happen, but hey. Definitely never say never, especially in Netflix and money and views wise. Bringing back Eddie Munson would bring back views for sure. But I have a hard time seeing it happen. I really do have a hard time seeing it happen. I think you might be out of luck there, and I think Stranger Things 5 might be ruined for you, to be honest with you. Oh my god, back-to-back questions about the same relationship, but totally opposite opinions. Kay says, Lumax, which is Lucas and Max, not getting a happy ending or enough screen time. And then Victoria followed it up with, Season 5 is ruined for me if Max and Lucas officially start dating again. Victoria, I'm afraid you're gonna lose this one. I think Max and Lucas will end up start dating again, and I think they will live happily ever after. I don't think either of those characters are dying. I don't see it happening at least, and I think they're gonna end up dating again, and like I said, having a happy ending. So Victoria, you will probably lose this one, but hey, you never know. This next one is a loaded opinion, I guess. From A, they say, what would really ruin Stranger Things 5 for me is if either Vecna and the Mind Flayer win at the end of season 5, or a major character dying. Will Byers is second Vecna and the whole Hawkins gang taking down the Mind Flayer. So they don't want Vecna winning, obviously, or any villain winning. I think we could all agree with that. They don't want a major character dying. I disagree with that. They don't want Will Byers to be a second Vecna. I don't really care how that goes, to be honest with you. I mean, I care obviously, but I don't have like a strong opinion either way. And then they don't want the whole Hawkins gang taking down the Mind Flayer. So I don't really know how I feel about all that. I think I disagree with most of it, to be honest with you. Besides, like, I don't want the Vecna or the Mind Flayer to win, obviously. So I agree with that. But all the other stuff I honestly might disagree with. But hey, who knows? Mrs. Munson says, it kind of already happened if they don't release it on November 6th. They already chose November, but they won't pick Stranger Things Day for the final season. And also if Dustin loses anyone else. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be released on November 6th. And the reason I think this is because in recent years, like in 2022, for example, maybe it was 2023. I'm pretty sure it was 2022. They released Wednesday in 1888 or 1889 at the end of November, like on the week of November 27th. That week, they released both of those shows, both season 1 premieres. 1889 got canceled for some stupid reason. It was a phenomenal show. Go watch it if you haven't already. And Wednesday, obviously, is having season 2 release sometime soon. Both of those shows banged, and they were very good, and it seemed like a popular week for Netflix to release big seasons. So I think that's the week they're aiming for. For the final season, I think they're aiming for Thanksgiving weekend or Thanksgiving week, whatever, around Thanksgiving, and like November 20th-ish, 25th. So that's why I think they're aiming for that. I kind of agree that it doesn't make sense why they want to do it on Stranger Things Day though. But what really pissed me off, and I haven't really talked about it, I guess I did a little bit in one video, but the fact that they didn't do anything for this past Stranger Things Day, like, what are you talking about? It was so low effort, and I respect everyone on the cast, writers, directors, duffers, Netflix, all of it, okay? I appreciate all of them. Changed my life, right? It was so low effort on Stranger Things Day, I literally couldn't believe it. I was just like, okay, this doesn't make any sense. Maybe it was because the election, the presidential election, I guess, but it pissed me off. I'm not gonna lie to you. It pissed me off because I feel like it ruined a lot of momentum for Stranger Things 5. Like the little momentum there was, it kind of just got shut down. And then they released some half-assed teaser in January. and we haven't heard it from them since. It kind of pissed me off, to be honest with you. The only thing they've done that I've semi-liked is they remembered Will's birthday. And it was whatever. So I don't want to get into all that, but I don't even know how I got on that tangent. What did I even read? I don't even remember what I read, but regardless. Oh yeah, if they didn't release it on November 6th. I feel like Stranger Things Day has lost a lot of significance because they basically skipped it this past time. And when you skip that show that's literally named after you, or that day that's named after you, oh, I don't know. God, that infuriates me, dude. That's supposed to be the day where the biggest show ever gets celebrated. And how that happens is if you start it, like the account starts it. And just because some presidential election's happening or whatever it may have been, doesn't mean you don't do it. That's just lazy, in my opinion. The whole point of the show is to distract us from outside world events. Nobody, like, personally, I think everybody in the Stranger Things community doesn't really give a shit about all that much, you know? We just want to watch the damn show. We're talking about it 3 years after the most recent season. I'm not going to get into it, but yeah. I think they should release it on Stranger Things Day, but I don't think they will because of that reason. Arya says if they focus too much on new characters, that kind of went along with the if the new characters take away screen time from other ones. I agree. We already have enough characters in the show. Focus on the characters that are in the show. Even though there's already gonna be new characters, just focus on the damn characters in the show. Leah says if everyone in the party survives, I will be very underwhelmed, TBH. I think everyone in the party survives. Like if you're talking about the small party, Will, Dustin, Lucas, and Mike. If you're talking about those four, I think all of them probably survive. Besides maybe Will. But even then, I think all of them probably survive. Okay, the last one I found is from Massacre, and they said, if either Billy or Eddie or any other dead characters come back to life. So literally, if anything I've ever said about the entire show comes to fruition, Massacre is not gonna be happy. So, understandable, I get it. Those are all the hot takes of what would ruin Stranger Things 5 for people around the Stranger Things community. Let me know what would ruin Stranger Things 5 for you. Let me know what you think about my opinion. Sorry for that little tangent about Stranger Things Day. That's still just, man, it hits me in the wrong spot still. Like, that pisses me off. I feel like they should have just texted me. I'm not saying like I'm some special whatever, but like just text me, hey, can you run the Stranger Things account for a day? No pay whatsoever. I would have made the day amazing. Like, what are we talking about? Anyways, sorry for that little tangent, but yeah, those are all the opinions about what Stranger Things 5 is gonna, what would ruin Stranger Things 5 for the Stranger Things community. Like I said, let me know your thoughts and opinions and comments and concerns. And if you guys enjoy this video, be sure to drop a like, subscribe, turn on notifications, check out my Discord down below where we talk Stranger Things every single day. Wow, this was a long video. I think it's gonna be over 20 minutes. The yap session, but here we are. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace out.